Hey guys, Jay here, welcome to EonsOfBattle, and today I would like to show off my Dreadnought collection. It might not be the largest collection in the world, but I think I've got some pretty darn cool models in this collection. I started collecting Space Marines about probably a year to maybe 2 years after I started Warhammer. I started with Necrons, but that were my very first army, and because they were my first army, they weren't built particularly well and they weren't painted particularly well. So I decided I wanted to funnel my newfound knowledge and experience into a new army that I could really perfect. And I decided that that was going to be Space Marines, and specifically Black Templar Space Marines. And so my first Dreadnought model is here, but it is not one of the beautifully finished, put together Dreadnoughts. It is right here in my Dreadnought bag. This is a bag of Dreadnought parts. And it is this, which is an Assault on Black Reach Dreadnought that came with the Space Marines. It is a very cute model. I actually have 2 videos where I show how I originally painted this guy. Not particularly well, but it was okay. And maybe one day I will finally put this guy all back together and get him done up properly as a regular Dreadnought. But we'll see. I do love this model. It was actually gifted to me by a friend of mine, and it's just nice. I like it, but not enough for it to not live in the bag. My first real Dreadnought was this guy, and it is a classic Venerable Dreadnought that I did a fair bit of work to repose. I'm super happy with this model, and it is actually slightly modular. The flamer is glued on, but I never glued on the gun, so I can actually carefully pull off the gun attachment and move, and so I can swap it out for the double las cannon or the melt-a-gun. But this model was one of my favorite things I had ever built and painted. I did some cool kit bashing to get it posed exactly how I wanted it to. It's got a little piece of PVC pipe to make it a little bit longer in the torso, and it actually has pieces of a hot glue stick to help the arms be pivoted in the way I wanted them to be. It worked pretty well, but it is completely static. It is not magnetized. This light is a bit from the Vindicator tank kit, but I'm super happy with this guy. I absolutely love it. This little shield is actually a resin cast bit that I made myself out of some plastic card, and then I cast it myself. Super proud of that. It's just an all around super cool miniature. It was probably one of the biggest things I had painted because I was still pretty new to the game and I hadn't painted that many things. But after this guy, I moved on to this Dreadnought, the pipe organ Dreadnought. And this I actually modeled like years and years ago, and I painted it only probably 2 years ago. I made these pipe organ pieces out of just plasticard tubes. And other than that, it's just a regular Venerable Dreadnought kit. I gave it a little dick tassel from some model kit somewhere. And I did some more fun converting work on this. It has the combat shield. There used to be, I think there might still be in the game, a thing called a combat shield, which no one takes because it gives you like a 5-up invulnerable save, which on a Space Marine is garbage. But it works out really well, and I like this Dreadnought a lot. And this is when I finally decided that if I'm gonna do Dreadnoughts, I should probably make them magnetized so that I can have all the options. But unfortunately, when you magnetize infantry, it's kind of okay because painting one bolt gun is no big deal. It only takes a few minutes. But painting an entire Dreadnought arm kind of takes a lot of work. And that is actually a big part of the reason why I have a Dreadnought parts bag. Inside of this bag is tons and tons of arms that I haven't gotten around to actually finishing yet. And mostly that is because really the best thing to take is the missile launcher arm and the double las cannon arm. There's reasons to take the other ones, but the assault cannon isn't really good enough. I can let my troops do a lot of my like strength 6 infantry killing. Really, las cannons are something I'm really lacking in my army, and so that's usually what I bring Dreadnoughts for. But I really like how this Dreadnought came out. Dreadnoughts are dead Space Marines who have kind of been, they didn't die. The famous quote is that they are mostly dead, but that means that they're slightly alive. And so there's a slightly alive dude in there, and so I kit bash and convert these heavily because I feel like it really tells the story of the person who's trapped inside of this Dreadnought. And this guy, I don't know, he must like church organs. He must be just a little extra zealous. But I really like this guy. And at this point, I actually had been kit bashing a bunch of different Dreadnoughts, and I decided it's finally time to just hunker down and paint them all. And so the next Dreadnought that I painted was this guy. And this is my new favorite. This was my favorite from back in the day, but this is now my proper favorite Dreadnought. It's simple, it's clean. I decided to go with the coffin-shaped face because originally I didn't like the coffin face. I thought that it was much more interesting to have the helmet. But once I had built two with the helmet option, I kind of felt like I didn't want to do that again. And so I went with the Coffin Head, and I actually found that I liked that quite a bit. It's got this lovely bit from the Necromunda box, and I really love how it looks. You've got the skull and the little prayer script pages. I absolutely love it. He is similarly magnetized, exactly like the other one. And I just love this model. And the piece de resistance of this model is magnetized this front hatch. And underneath is the dead Space Marine. Oh boy. It actually has a little plastic skull, and I put green stuff on part of the head, and then I actually sunk one tiny little bead, like a little glass bead, to be the eyeball. I absolutely love it. It is super grim. It is super macabre. It is my favorite thing. But I absolutely love this Dreadnought. If I build more, I'll probably build them similarly to this. With lots of skulls, I'll probably use more of these creepy Necromunda pieces. And maybe I'll have one where the Space Marine is permanently exposed, not even hidden behind a little front piece. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. I still have three more Dreadnoughts to talk about. And now we get into what I think is the cool stuff. And let's start with this adorable lump of lead. Holy moly, this guy weighs probably about a pound. This is an OG metal Dreadnought. I believe that this is actually the Blood Angels Furioso Dreadnought body with regular Dreadnoughts arms and things. And this model kit was, this model kit was miserable to put together. It is so heavy, the parts barely fit together, it was very mismatched. It took tons of super glue and green stuff, but I kind of like that I have it. It's such a piece of history. It's so obnoxious and it's completely inappropriate for like a game piece. I could throw this at someone and seriously hurt them if I hit them right on the head. The details are soft but okay. I think once it's all been put together, I think it actually looks pretty darn good. It has some of the Black Templar brass etching pieces. Here and here, the Templar crosses on the knee and on the gun. And I think that they definitely add a lot to it. This is my only, I guess, normal Dreadnought, not a Contemptor Dreadnought, not a Venerable Dreadnought, but I really like it. And I love the idea of old ass models seeing tabletop time in modern 40K. It really flims my flams. It butters my biscuits. It just really like it. It makes me happy. And God, this thing is so heavy. But I love him so much. He is wonderful. And once I had this guy, I had a taste. Had a taste of old Dreadnoughts. And so I decided that there was one more out there that I needed. And I got super lucky one day, and I picked one up. And it is this model. This probably looks weird to you, and actually when I saw it on eBay, I first thought that it was the Forge World, it was a kit bashing of the Forge World Ultramarines Dreadnought. But actually this is the first Venerable Dreadnought available in white metal. This is a all metal model, and I super duper love it. And it is kind of wild. Like, it's very different compared to some of the more modern Dreadnoughts. I mean, I know it looks the same, but it has some key differences. Its body is a little bit shorter and quite a bit taller. It has a lot of really, really good details. It has the face, it has lots and lots of tubes and pipes running into the head. It has tons and tons and tons of decorations, because again, this is a venerable Dreadnought. It is supposed to be like a centuries old hero who is beloved by the chapter and has tons of accolades and decorations thrown on him. And I super duper love this model. It was so many parts and pieces and such a pain in the butt to put together. And if I ever dropped it, it would probably shatter. Some of it would get completely destroyed by being squished flat by its own weight, and a lot of it would shatter, but I really, really love it. It has some really interesting details, like these clawed feet. We actually see feet like this on the Ironclad Dreadnoughts, but they first made their appearance on the Venerable Dreadnoughts. And I super, super duper like it. Again, this is another model that I'm really excited to kind of bring back. I got this new in-box shrink wrapped. I can't believe I let that box get away from me. It'd be really cool to still have it, but a really, really cool miniature. Quite a bit of work to put it together. And actually, I decided that I wanted to use the original Games Workshop plastic molded 60mm base, because it's just kind of a fun piece of history. Like Games Workshop, when they originally made things like the Dreadnought and the Wraith Lord, they thought like, oh my god, we've made these amazingly huge kits. These are gonna be one and dones. We might as well make our own custom bases for them to look so impressive on. And now, I mean, this guy is completely dwarfed by every single model kit that gets released. And so they've completely kind of done away with having uniquely sculpted bases, but I really, really dig it, and I decided to keep it mostly intact for this miniature because it is a piece of history, and I want it to best represent the history of when it was made. But this is a white metal Venerable Dreadnought. Moving into the 41st millennia, we have the Redemptor Dreadnought, and this kit, when I first saw it, released for the Primaris, I didn't love it too much, but it has absolutely grown on me, and now I really, really like it. It has some things that I still don't love, but overall, I absolutely love this model. I love it so much that I actually have two. This is my second one. But part of the reason why I absolutely fell in love with this model is whoever was the designer of this is a genius engineer, because usually miniatures, they go together one way. You have some options, maybe a turret can turn left or right, but this is basically a Gundam. Every single little lever, finger, every part of this model is fully posable and customizable. It is amazing. He has these little pistons coming out of his crotch, going into his legs, and even those little pistons can rotate up and down and pivot so that they are in line with however you want to pose the legs. The legs are completely customizable all the way down to this little bumper thingy in the back of the knee. The arms can go up and down, left and right. The fingers are all loose for you to glue on in whatever pose you want. Unbelievably cool kits. I have magnetized mine so that I can have all of the weapon options on both of his arm weapons, but really, really cool kits. In terms of the looks, some of the things that I didn't love about this kit was I felt like giving him an actual knee, a knee joint, and giving him a little bit of an elbow joint made him a little bit too human. I really, really dig the sad story that is the Dreadnought, of a human being put into this essentially walking gun turret with just no humanity left. It's just so grim and frightening, and I felt like when they added in a lot more human elements into the new kits, it started to get away from that thing I really liked about the Dreadnoughts. But now having one, I actually think that it all works pretty well, and it still looks pretty gross and is kind of weirdly uncomfortable, the idea that there's a person in there. I really, really like the Venerable Dreadnought kits. Now, one kit I don't have here, because it is not a Dreadnought, is the Invictus Tactical Warsuit. And that kit is a really, really cool model, but for me, I don't really like it because it sets a bad precedent, in my opinion. One thing I really, really like about Games Workshop is they do seem to have a kind of a commitment to a sort of realism when it comes to things like this. Dreadnoughts work because you've got a human, like, you know, screwed in through like the spine and brain so that they can operate these joints. And they have 4 limbs because a human being has 4 limbs, and so they could reasonably operate 4 limbs. We see a similar thing on the baby carrier, the Grey Knight's Nemesis Dreadnought, and we see that the Space Marine inside has to use his arms and legs to operate the arms and legs of the walker. We see the same thing on the Paragon Warsuits for the Sisters of Battle. Games Workshop is committed to this thing that if something, there has to be a reason for the way it works. And so you have 4 legs, you can operate 4 limbs. And they've kept that trend going the whole time except for the Invictus Tactical Warsuit. The Space Marine in there has a couple of foot pedals and a joystick, and that's how he's able to control 4 limbs. It could be a situation where this Invictus Tactical Warsuit is connected to the Space Marine's black carapace, and so it's okay, it sort of gets away with it, but in my opinion, I don't like it. I like the brutality and the realism of having of only being able to operate the appropriate number of limbs for a human being using your limbs. And I feel like the Invictus Tactical Warsuit kind of breaks that a little bit. But it's not a Dreadnought, and so I don't have to be sad about not including it in my Dreadnought army because it's just a different thing. This is my Dreadnought collection, and I love it dearly, and some things that I do have on my wish list is I would love to somehow, magically, get my hands on some of the Forge World Dreadnoughts. They haven't sold them in years, but they did sell a Black Templar Venerable Dreadnought, and they sold a Chaplain Dreadnoughts, and those 2 models I would love to add to the collection. It would actually be a fun way to bridge the gap between my Chaplain collection and my Dreadnought collection to have a Chaplain in Dreadnoughts model. They haven't been sold in a kind of a while, so it'll be hard to pick them up, but I'll keep my eyes peeled on eBay, and maybe one day I'll get lucky. There's another Dreadnought that I don't have, and that is the Contemptor Dreadnought. And that is a Dreadnought that I really, really like, but I don't super love the Games Workshop plastic one because it is sometimes called the Rigor Mortis pattern Dreadnought because it is very stiff pose, and the ones available from Forge World are very, very expensive. But I did read the novel Apocalypse, and in that book there is a character who wears Contemptor Dreadnought armor, and it was really, really cool, and so I would love to pick up one of those kits just to convert it into that character. I think he would slot perfectly into my collection. And in terms of the other 2 Dreadnoughts available, the Leviathan and the Deredeo, I kind of float back and forth on if I like them or don't like them. I do like the Deredeo, but the Leviathan, I don't know. Some days I feel like it's super sick and I love it, and some days I feel like it just kind of looks dopey and dumb. I don't know. Please leave a comment below about what you think about the Leviathan Dreadnought. I'm sure everybody's gonna be like, Jay, you're insane. The Leviathan Dreadnought is the coolest thing out there, but I don't know. I just don't like it that much. Maybe it's just the weapon options. Maybe it's the super bulky body. Maybe it's the giant face sticking out the front of it. I don't know. It's just not my favorite. But I do like the Deredeo, and I think I will pick up one of those one of these days. I love their weird flat bellies, and I would love to do a checkerboard pattern on their belly. I think that would be really, really cool. And I guess the only other Dreadnought I don't have is an Ironclad Dreadnought, which I should own. I should just buy one. I should buy one maybe after I'm done with this video, because I need it for the collection, clearly. But I do love me a Dreadnought. I have quite a few. I love the ones I have, and I love the history behind the Dreadnoughts. And one thing that I love is a respect for wargaming history, and I intend to bring lots more of that into videos on the channel. And if you like the videos we make and you want to see more, the best way to support us is by becoming a member of our Patreon. Over there, you're gonna get access to a bunch of terrain STLs, one exclusive video a week, a hobby hangout every Friday, and more. But with that said, I love my Dreadnoughts. Let me know in the comments below your favorite Dreadnoughts, and bye.